What did it mean to you when you found out you were going to get the nod in game one?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was just a feeling that it was, I mean, that's kind of what I worked for, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm here playing college football, so it was a good feeling. There's not a better way to put it other than it was just an awesome feeling, dog. I got to go out with my teammates game one, and we got to get after it together, so.
Was there any doubt in your mind? I mean, when you look at which team you're getting your reps with and just how practice is going and meetings and everything, I mean, would you kind of look at the battle and stuff, and was it kind of in your mind, your job to lose?
Yeah, I would say that's the best way to put it for sure. Personally, I'm never going to be like, oh, it's not my job. So, yeah, the best way to put it was my job to lose.
Why'd you win? What did you do? What was the difference?
I mean, I know we talked about it last time. It was more of like doing the simple things good, and so all my teammates helped me out, and I mean that's the best way to put it. I was rallying around guys, and we got after it.
Coaches have credited your understanding of the offense. How much more do you feel comfortable in understanding this offense than this time last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big step. There's a so-called, you could call it my second year in the system, right? We kept very similar terminology, so I feel like that's a big step for me of confidence, knowing the offense better than most, for sure.
Where do you think you're better now than you were early in the season last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the role of leadership is where I personally have stepped up a lot, and it comes with the position, but I also think playing the game, you get better, so I've been able to improve in most aspects of the game, for sure.
A lot of people mention your height as well. Just how do you push back, and I guess what's it like for you behind the line?
Yeah, I mean, football's football, and height's not a big deal to me, right? A lot of people talk about it like it's their favorite thing to talk about it, but some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time are under 6 foot.
I guess what's it been like for you preparing? Your only other start you found out a day or two before. You've had a couple of weeks now. Just how different has it been?
Yeah, I mean, like I just mentioned, the whole confidence thing is such a big deal, and preparing's obviously not going to be as different from last year because I was preparing like I'm going to play no matter what. But I think it's more so the confidence that I'm going into with game one.
You talked about the 6 foot quarterbacks. There's a lot of them out there. Is there any of them you studied to see what they do and how they overcome certain things?
Yeah, I mean, I was a big Drew Brees guy growing up. He was so fun to watch, and he was a stud. And it's really like the best way to put it is they're all playing quarterback in their own way. And so that's where I'd put myself. Is I'm just playing quarterback in my own way, and my height's not going to affect the way I play.
How do you do it your way where it doesn't affect your ability to throw the ball or see the ball downfield?
Yeah, I mean, there's times where it's tough, right? Like, I'm not the tallest guy out there, and there's times where it's tough, but it's being like having your little tools of packages. But it's also like I was just talking with Chris and Cam about it. Like, Cam's like, I've never had a quarterback under 6'2", so sometimes I don't see you, I just see the ball. And then they asked the question of how do I see them? I'm like, I'm just expecting you guys to be in the right spot. So you guys need to be there. And I mean, obviously there's a lot that goes into it, but it's just, I mean, I'm just playing football. So.
But Max, what is it? I mean, QB1's one thing, but QB1 at Boise State. What is that? What's the responsibility that comes with that?
Yeah, I mean, Boise State football is the biggest thing in Idaho. So there's obviously responsibility, but I think the best way to put it is I got a bunch of guys around me that are going to go make plays. I mean, there's so many weapons, and so I can't do this thing by myself. So I got to trust those guys, and I do. Those guys are all studs. There's 8 wide receivers that are ballers. We've got 5 running backs that could play anywhere around the country right now, and so our O-line is as dominant as they come. I mean, at this point, it's just those guys are helping me.
We've talked to you about the chip on your shoulder thing. We talked about it last time, but just given the announcement and the social media and everything else, I mean, just how eager are you to go out there and to show people game one, that you were the right guy for the job?
Yeah, I mean, the chip on the shoulder, well, I wouldn't say it's ever changed, right? It's now I'm trying to be the best for myself, but also for the team. I mean, we just talked about it. There's a whole team relying on me doing my job every play of the game. So that's where I'm at, of more like my mentality of going in and trusting those guys, doing the right thing when it's needed.
Does it bug you, bother you at all? I guess some of that stuff, like, hey man, what we talked about last time. You've already played here and shown you can have success, and you've now won this job twice. I mean, just what's your feeling, I guess, with kind of some of the outside noise?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest when it comes to outside noise. I don't really care what other people have to say. I know I've got 11 guys that can trust me, and I trust them, so that's all that matters to me.
How was it revealed to you? Like, how was the news delivered, and did you expect it and all that stuff at that given time?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a conversation with Coach Cutter and Coach D. I guess I talked to Coach D first, and then Coach Cutter. And yeah, I mean, at that point, I felt like I have done everything I possibly could, so I was expecting it. And I mean, it was a good conversation, simple and fast.
Was it something where they called you when you were in office? Was it a pre-planned meeting, or was it just like after Was it that Sunday they said, hey, let's come out top?
Yeah, I mean, that Sunday after our second scrimmage, we've always done the roll call kind of thing where every guy finds out where they are. So it was just that position, and that Sunday is where it happened.
Were you nervous?
I wouldn't say I was nervous, no.
Did you expect to be number one at that point?
Yeah, I did.
Kind of a unique time in college football history to be named the QB1. You know, with everything you guys now have to play for, what's it mean to you to have the opportunity to lead this team to potentially new things?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. All the hype that Boise State football is getting is awesome, right? And I think it's a better thing now where I've got so many guys around me to where we can do this thing, and it makes me feel like awesome. I'm in a good position. I'm confident with everything we've got going on, and we've got a team that wants to go out and compete every day and battle. So it's a good feeling for sure.
A lot of your teammates and even Coach Danielson yesterday was talking about how this team has not won an opener since 2020. You know, what's kind of the hunger to start 1-0 for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about it in practice and everything, but starting fast is a big deal, right? And if you can start the season 1-0, it's a game changer for sure. So we're gonna go get after. We're gonna have a fun time. We know what we got to do, and we're going to.
What do we hear about?
Through the preseason, how impressed have you been with Latrell? It seems like every scrimmage we heard about him doing some crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, Latrell Caples is a guy that he's gonna do everything correct, and half the time it's not even him touching the ball. I mean, he's a physical blocker in the run game, but he also is like, he'll run for the love of the game routes where he knows he's not getting the ball, but he's just gonna do it because he cares more about this team than he does getting the ball. And I mean, you always talk about it, like the football gods are gonna bless those guys that care more about the team. And so him coming out there and having a good scrimmage, the second scrimmage, I mean, great scrimmage. It was good. I mean, that's earned by Latrell Caples. Everything's earned.
Everybody says how well you know this offense, but I want to hear from you, like your perspective. Like, how'd you get to this point? What's your process?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big routine guy. Whether it's I have to brush my teeth every morning, wake up the same time, like I'm a big routine guy. So when it comes to like the whole game plan and stuff, like I have a routine. I'm still working through it. I mean, it's nice that I had Bush to learn from and Coach Cutter to learn from on the preparation side. And I think that's the biggest thing is asking so many questions to where it's like I've gone through every possibility of what's going to happen. And so it's like the questions asked is what is needed. And I feel like those guys help me so much. I mean, you talk about Steve Cooper, that's overqualified of his job for sure. And so he's a big help. I mean, all those guys are big helps to me. And that's what I almost call my process is relying on those other people, right? Obviously individual stuff, but those guys are the biggest helps.
Coach Cutter has worked with a lot of great quarterbacks. What's the biggest tip do you think he's given you?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Cutter is obviously one of the most knowledgeable guys to coach. And so it's like I'm able to learn so much from him. And I think the tips aren't so much football, but just like he's coached professional quarterbacks multiple times. And so understanding what he's saying and putting out on the table has been said at the highest level to the highest guys. And I think a tip or so of his is just like commanding the game, right? The game is, at times people make it too hard. So it's like creating the game so simple, making the simple plays. He talks about all the time, like layups and simple plays of football. So that's a big tip of his for sure.
How's Malachi, been ever since he obviously found out he didn't win it, and what'd you see from him during fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, he's a stud. He's a baller. He's got a lot of talent, and I think he's done a really good job of like responding in ways, being a good teammate. So on that aspect, I'm extremely proud of him. He knows he's a good player, and him and I still have an awesome relationship. So that's good for sure.
You've now beaten out a quarterback who's starting in the SEC and a 5-star transfer from USC. What does that do for your confidence?
I mean, it's a big deal, right? But it's also I have my own confidence internally where it's like I know the player I am and stuff like that. And like I said, when there's so many guys around me, how could I not be confident?
Coach D mentioned yesterday, Cy Gaines, he'll be playing a big part on offense and special teams. Just what can you say about him and your guys' relationship?
I mean, Sire's funny. He's sitting back there, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll try and be mean. I'm just kidding now. But Sire's a stud. I mean, talk about a guy that goes 100% every time, and it's more than that. And so it's going to be awesome to have him in the back room. He's going to help us a lot. Physical as can be, shifty, fast, and he'll score touchdowns this year. He will, 100%.
What is the difference between being QB1 and QB2 game day, but also on Tuesday? You know, like what are the differences for you?
I mean, I wouldn't like to say there's very much of a difference because in the way I'm preparing the same. I think the slightest difference is how many like practice reps are being given. Obviously, reps have to be taken from the twos because of anything could happen. So the biggest difference I'd say is more just like the practice. But when it comes to preparation and meetings and everything, it's very similar and it's got to be the same because you never know what could happen.
There's a lot of intangibles in sports, and you've been described by several people as a winner. Leadership in high school, state championships in high school, winning certain battles in college as a freshman. Where did that come from?
I mean, I couldn't say exactly where it came from, but I was raised by a good father that kind of taught me to compete all the time. So that's the best way to put it. And I mean, I grew up with 4 brothers that from the womb we were competing in certain ways. So that's the best way to put it. Like my family, and then also just growing up, you meet so many other athletes, and that competition of each other like rubs off. So the more competitive you get in the sport, the more competitive yourself gets, right? So like that's the best way I can put it is as I've gained, I feel like I've always had a competitive nature, and now it's just the highest competition there is.
Last year, you know, I'd say there's called conflicting reports about, you know, who was starting and how much who was practicing and all these things. Is the message clearer this year? And if so, in terms of how many practice reps you're getting with the ones going into a game, how much does that help you?
Yeah, I mean, I think as crazy as it was last year, those coaches did a good job of actually like stating what's going on and like all that stuff. So in a way it was clear, like, I mean, by game time you really had no idea. But this year, I mean, it's just, right, it's way more clear. And I think when practice reps comes around, it's a better understanding, and it is as clear as it can be.
What do you see from Georgia Southern's defense?
I mean, they're fast, they're physical. They've got a lot of guys returning. Their front's solid. But realistically, it's like the first game's tough because you don't exactly know what they're going to do. They haven't played a game yet where you could sit down and break down games. So a lot of it's going off last year's films. They play fast, they play together, they move around like no other. So I think that we're going to do a really great job against them. We've got I like our matchups better is what I'd say about it. So
You know probably better than most, you know, coaches here are always going to be looking for what gives the team the best chance to win. So what do you have to do to kind of keep this job just simply winning, or is there more to it?
yeah, I mean, the best way to put it is like you said, the coaches want this team to win, and so winning is what's got to happen, right? Like at the end of the day, we could go out and score 50 points and it'd be 50-51 and we lose, and at the end of the day, like, we're not winning. So we gotta, like, in my position, I've got to rely on other people. We're a whole team now. I mean, we talk about all fall camp of going offense versus defense. We're a whole team now. So when it comes down to it, like, the leadership aspect of it, of keeping the team together is a big part of it. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's just winning, right?
Did any